requesting, I should say, and a draft memo. In this case, it's what we name, I believe, a minor modification of the building. And I present this to you for your thought and discussion tonight. As almost everything else with development, it will go to the planning board first, and they will make a recommendation to you on the minor change, whether you should approve it or not. And we're actually having a special, we've moved the July meeting to actually tomorrow night to be able to get a quorum. So I would expect it to be on your agenda for the July regular council meeting. Just to make you aware of it. I believe it's appropriate to describe it as a minor modification to the structure. Obviously, Mr. Kaufman's here if you have any questions.
I guess I do, if that's okay. The size of, well, maybe the shape of the building has changed, but the size is not. Is that correct?
It's my understanding that the size is really the same. It's just we're running into rock. We're finding more rock down this area. It was going to raise the cost, so that's what they decided to go ahead and move it over here, which is here.
Okay.
So they're in the middle of redrawing all this, and they don't want to go too far without getting approved.
Any other questions?
So same square footage, basically, same number of beds?
I haven't been told it yet.
Okay.
I would like to point out, maybe if I could use the building, if you recall, originally this was to be a skilled nursing facility. We're still going after that to put it over here. We're having a hard time getting vets licensed, and so until we get them, we can't really get it over here. But we intend to get one. So what would happen if we didn't get a skilled nursing facility? The only thing we could do is go ahead and build the villas. We're getting ready to start. We have 84, that we just expand that to 20. And I think many of you have been to the villas in Senegal. We rented 8 this last week. So the villas are going pretty good. But we'd rather have a skilled nursing. Any other questions?
The villas are associated with Randall,
Yeah, it's same part of the same campus.
but independently.
Yeah. We get the Asian place.
I think the difference it makes for us is a skilled nursing facility is going to employ a lot more people for the community versus the...
That's what we want.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just, I mean, that's a lot of people paying employment taxes and everything through the community. So that would be a huge feather in our cap as far as, and a huge service to provide our community too. If anyone who's had to take grandma out to Brookhaven or over to Springmead or down to any other facility, to have one in their own backyard would be just super awesome.
Green Bear does have license, extra license. We approached that with them, but they haven't decided. The best we could do is find a, I always hate using the word nursing home, but one that's not doing well, we can buy the whole facility and get the license.
They have a lifespan, and when their facilities at the end of a point that's too expensive to operate, that's their values in the beds.
It's beds.
Yeah, yeah.
But the state has started taxing them if they don't use their beds. I think it's like $12,000 a year for bed license. If you don't use it,
You get penalized.
you get penalties.
That's pretty smart.
Randall's really would like to have the skilled nursing, I would like to have it. But it's a good partnership. If they go to the hospital and they have an operation, they can come to the skilled nursing in 90 days. The government pays for that. Then they can move on other places.
Any other questions? Thank you. Next on our agenda, code enforcement update. Staff has issued 53 citations year to date. We resolved 21, or approximately 40%. We are still working on, for example, you were shown a letter to the community. Should have that by next week to show you at the regular council meeting. If you approve the draft, it will then be mailed out to the entire community, helping them to understand what the expectations are in terms of maintaining their residence. I think Tim's doing a great job. He's just being pulled in too many directions to spend more than a day or two a week on code enforcement. So most of our emphasis had been tall grass, but a lack of rain stalled that for the last few weeks. So, but if you do have any issues, or if you're aware of something you want us to look into, like we did last year, just send me an email, give me an address, let me know what your concerns are, and we'll get right on it. All right. That is all I have for the workshop portion. I believe we're now ready to, for a motion to move into regular council meeting.
Make that motion to move into regular council meeting. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
It's my understanding that we are going to table any discussion or action on items 7 and 8, which is the sanitary sewer utility rate increase and the water utility rate increase. Is that correct?
No action tonight. Does anybody want to talk? We can talk about
Sure.
the new, Jill is good enough to run new numbers that we had asked her at the council meeting. And,
Yeah, water.
Nope, it's on this page here.
Yep, you have water at the top, sewer, and then they're combined, and it shows each year, once the initial increase takes effect, and then the 2% annual increase. And the way the ordinance is currently written, the initial increase would take effect September 1, and then the 2% would be December 31st or January 1 of each year going forward. Anyone have any questions about the projections?
Help me remember the original numbers that you proposed.
I was at this, I recommended 17% on the water and 10% on sanitary sewer, and suggested that we modify that to 20% instead. So you can see in 2022, that would be an increase of a combined approximately $12.
Cheapest thing that's increased in my budget last year. See what I put it. You put the bottle of water away and turn the tap on.
Hold your breath every day.
So 20%?
You should check the rates up 50%.
Council meeting for a second reading.
You'll have all those numbers in
All those, we'll have the same information that we're looking at. Ready to move, there, I don't want to, fireworks. update, or how do you want to proceed?
Yeah, I emailed everybody a copy of the updated legislation. You did ask Renee, I think one of the big sticking points for everybody was the possession. Not allowing possession. So I asked Renee if she could draft language that allows possession but not actually setting them off. And so I'll let Renee explain that because I was a little confused on that.
That's all right. Our ordinance right now kind of mirrors the Ohio Revised Code, okay? What exists currently in the Ohio Revised Code, not the change that's coming, obviously. So when I was going through, there's section A talks about who can possess fireworks. The change that I had to explain was, the main thing is in the middle, after the dark section of the change, it says, it always takes me a second to find it, person, okay? It says a person authorized by Revised Code 3743.44, which is more of a person who has to get a license or a permit for larger fireworks. And Ohio Revised Code 3743.45, which is an individual who can possess the 1.4G fireworks. That section also goes into people who can possess it, people who can detonate them, light them off, use them, all of that. Okay, so this section will mimic what the Ohio Revised Code says about possession. However, there's also sections B, C, D, and E in our code, and one of those sections still says nobody can ignite, explode, all of those things with the fireworks. So that's still in there. So although they're allowed to possess under that Ohio Revised Code section, they're still not allowed to light them off. There are other sections of that in 91.11. So, but of course I didn't list those because those aren't changed. Those are staying the same.
Yeah. And then section F is just you have to put in to address the House Bill 172.
Right. And I didn't take out the possession part. I can, we're changing it anyway, so in this one. So the change is going to be effective either way, whether that's possession, sale, or discharge of commission.
Legalese is about as clear as mud to me.
Sorry.
That's what I think. Chris,
Is anyone else saying it? Where's Waldo easier than I am?
Yeah.
When I got it first,
I had to ask her myself.
yeah.
I emailed her myself.
It's kind of jumbled in there the way they have it written up, but
Yes.
you kind of have to piece it out. And because, it just references these different revised code sections,
Yeah.
well, then it's those code sections
I didn't
that.
want to look those up, it would have shown me, but I didn't. I was
That's
just looking
okay.
for wording.
But what this essentially is yes, you can possess them, certain ones, obviously. That the revised code allows you to possess, but you're still not allowed to light them up unless you're licensed or permit holder. Which are
So-
already exceptions. in your
So as an example, I as a citizen go to said authorized state seller of fun things and procure my stuff to go out to grandma's farm out in the country where it's safe and wet and not gonna light anything on fire and no rooftops around. I get pulled over in town,
You're fine.
I'm fine.
No violation.
Or anybody else traveling through town
Right.
to said grandma's house.
I'm a grandma.
So,
Is there any odd ways we're not thinking about this that we should be?
Some of you guys have spoken.
I'll offer a suggestion. We can change like this, I would think after a year, there may be some tweaks and other modifications you want to make, but it's almost impossible to anticipate those now. This is such a dramatic change in the law that until you see it in practice, at least in my experience, I'll be very surprised if a few months from now, having gone under it for a while, you say, you know, we forgot about this, we didn't anticipate that this would happen, and then we'll still want to make some changes.
And luckily, we live in a place where such changes can be made.
And we also changed it to an emergency ordinance, because our ordinances don't take effect for 10 days. Resolutions take effect immediately, the ordinance takes effect.
Chris, we'll let you start.
I know you're gonna expect me to say that that makes me happy. On one hand, it does, but I'm still not. I said to everybody yesterday, I didn't like including this tonight. I like it even less that it's an emergency ordinance. But technically, it only gets one reading and passed the emergency style. I know we read the other one last time. I definitely don't like that. So for those reasons, I'll be a no tonight on this. If we had more time to consider the changes, maybe, I mean, it kind of is rushed today to throw them together. I don't like that feeling either. We are restricting a activity that people would otherwise have lawful access to. And doing that at a workshop instead of regular council meeting, something I don't care for. I'm not saying that it's wrong, I'm not saying we don't have the authority, we do, but just because we do doesn't mean we should. And so that's, we've had time, we've discussed it, and this is where the process has brought us. I get all of that, and I understand the time crunch, but that's where I'm going to stick at with it tonight.
I will just say that, we did bring it up in the May workshop, that we would have to vote on it in the June workshop. So, I don't know if it reflected that in the minutes or not, but, I know that we talked about it because we knew that it was going to be down to the wire on this, so. Well, I guess if it doesn't matter, because we have to have five votes and positive for any emergency. So we wouldn't go pass it tonight.
So I make a motion that we table.
We can, but then
I think we need to discuss it
yeah.
as soon as we can so that we have enough time to make the changes we want, whether that's whatever, or, we need to do it before next July 4th. And there's, tabling it allows us to reopen it as soon as possible, right? Forces us to address it?
No, I mean, we can table it for as long as we want it.
Indefinitely. There's stuff in 2016, I remember tabling it, we never brought back, so.
Well,
Yeah.
like Chris, I wasn't a big fan of us doing it at a non-regular meeting. I think we all bounce some texts around back and forth of just how things appear and things like that. So do we want to table or what do we do?
I would suggest you make a motion to table, but if that passes, then that's the statement. Otherwise, it's dead.
You guys going to continue to discuss it?
That's what I would like.
Yeah.
Okay, I make a motion that we table.
Chris, I would agree with you up until the fact that it can't be contained to an individual, right? It's like, if I want to set it off, it becomes something where everyone around, sometimes for, a quarter mile even, is going to be affected by my actions. And like I said, like you said, they'd otherwise be able to lawfully do it,
Right.
But at the same time, you're affecting every neighbor within, and I don't know what the range is, a quarter mile I pulled out of the air, so.
Right. Something else I thought about today, in all the discussion, we haven't seen or heard any statistics, any, it's lawful and legal in Indiana per se. How many houses burned down in your jurisdictions because of fireworks in the past? You don't have to answer because I don't know.
That's good, because I
Which
don't
on
know.
the spot, I'm just saying, to restrict an otherwise lawful activity, we need to have evidence that does show us that. I know we've had the police chief and the fire chief both respect their opinions. So I was thinking today, we haven't seen any evidence to suggest or to say that this is something you need to restrict your residents from doing because of. Now, we all can come up with the nightmare scenarios and the,
I can give you an example right now.
Scare tactics.
an example, and that's fine, anecdotal evidence is one thing,
Yeah.
but, statistics from other places where it is legal would be something I'd be interested in seeing, because if you're gonna do that, and it may seem small time because it's a firework, but I'm telling you, if you can do it with this thing because it's, meets these criteria, you can do it with something else down the road, and that's.
That's true, it's done like that anyway, you have, dry counties and such.
Yep. I understand.
I don't know if fireworks sales are in dry counties.
The fire says it's drier. More fingers in those counties though.
All right.
Right, I make a motion that we table CM-22-19.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Next item on the agenda is the Debron Curbs. As I believe Mr. Herron has previously explained, before we can repave the road, some of the curbs that are badly need to be repaired. He's communicated multiple times with the homeowners who are responsible for the cost of repairing, and 3 have responded, 2 have not. I do believe in your package you have copies of the correspondence that is sent out. It's my understanding that we need council authorization to pursue the last 2 to fund the cost of the repairs. Any questions or information?
You have the cost.
I believe there is a, yes.
$1,075.
If they, I would suggest that Mr. Herron did everything he could to make it as inexpensive and reasonable, and he did everything he could to make it easy for the homeowner to take advantage of it, and they chose not to.
Were we waiting these last 2 weeks since our council meeting to give them more time?
I think he was waiting the last minute, and also, I think he learned some additional requirements in terms of notice that required it to be handled tonight. So it was more of a notice issue.
Any other questions?
It's a resolution authorizing the municipality to repair sections of curb and assess taxes. Whereas Debron Road is on the 2022 paving list, the surface of which is 26 years old. And whereas the director of service sent out letters to 5 property owners asking that damaged or sunken curb be replaced prior to paving. And whereas 3 of the owners have already replaced the marked curbs. And whereas 2 of the property owners have received a second letter with no response, while a third letter was sent as notification of the special council meeting. And whereas it is essential that these curb sections are replaced prior to resurfacing. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the Municipality of West Milton, Ohio, that Section 1, per West Milton Code, Section 33.26, the Director of Service is hereby authorized and directed to approve replacement of curb sections located at 195 Emmerich Road and 606 Debron Road, wherein all costs will be forwarded to the Director of Finance for assessment. Section 2, this resolution shall take effect and be in full force from and after its passage.
Thank you. Is there a motion for the resolution?
I'll make a motion to accept CM-22-30.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Dornan?
Yes.
Mr. Hurst?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Ms. Metz?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. I have a question before we move forward. So if it isn't an emergency, it had a first reading already, right, the fireworks? And in that, it was banned to actually possess them also, correct?
Correct, so that is still the correct one that was read.
All right, so if we take the emergency piece out and just go with what was read last time, it would ban both the possession and the detonation, and it would only need a simple majority, right?
For the original one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, but it doesn't go into effect for 10 days.
Great.
Well, I thought about that too, right? If we do nothing, it doesn't go into effect until 30 or 50 or 60 days, right? So we could actually untable it, bring it back and vote on it. If we have enough votes to pass it with a simple majority, then it becomes banned, right? I mean, even possession becomes banned in 10 days. But if we did the emergency, it wouldn't necessarily have to be, if we had the 5 votes to get through the emergency, then at least
What's 10 days from today?
it's going to be passed and forth.
Yeah.
10 days from today.
So a simple, like if we did 5 votes with the emergency, it would allow us to at least have it so that it wouldn't be banned. But like I say, I mean, if we do nothing, it's
So
the same
isn't it
as,
the weekend after as well?
July 8th.
I mean, according, so you would get the second weekend.
well, I mean, tonight would be the second reading, technically it banned.
No, it did.
Oh, second weekend, I'm sorry.
Weekend, because doesn't it allow the weekend after the July 4th too?
Yes.
So you would actually,
We would pick that up.
you would pick that up, but I don't know that that's high use time anyway, but still.
I'll have a lot of stomach for that. We're 2 people down, and of the 5, 3 were against the possession piece.
I would rather us,
Leave it alone.
and I understand where you're coming from, I'd rather us table this at this point, only because we can really nail down and say, maybe we want to look 2 days before and after a holiday. I like that idea. I thought that was, and instead of trying to fit all these little pieces in right now, last minute, if we can't do the emergency,
To me, the emergency part was they're having
Information, obviously, because a lot of it is legalese. But see if I can get more information of, if people are setting them off, restrictions of setting them off.
I'll call you if anybody sets any off down on my street.
it's legal.
Mayor Miller, since you're the member of council with probably most access to type information when it comes to fire statistics and things like that in the industry and the field, is there any access to information, you might be able to rustle up numbers for us from other areas where maybe it is.
Yeah, I can give you like national statistics, that would help. Because, fires are classified by cause.
Right.
And so anything we can pull like national statistics, and that kind of stuff. I can,
Because if we're gonna have more discussion, I think Chris's point on it being fact-driven, and because to me, the whole thing is safety. I keep likening it back to the whole, you can discharge a firearm in the state of Ohio, but why we have a municipal ordinance against them is because it's loud. You can't guarantee it's gonna stay in your property, and that there's risk involved. And
There's plenty of evidence that when people shoot guns in cities, people die.
there's plenty of evidence.
exactly.
We can pull that. I'm not sure I'm not sure what difference it might make to have those numbers, but we can go through that. To me, this is, I'll get on the soapbox about being on safety. This to me is a personal safety issue. We can say it's anecdotal, but I've been on the houses that have caught fire. I've taken the kids that have blown their hands off because they shouldn't have had the stuff, and people had them, and people are not responsible. And there are rules on the books for those reasons, because not everybody is going to be responsible like we are. We have drunk driving laws for a reason, because not everybody is responsible enough to say, okay, I've been drinking, I shouldn't drive. And this, to me, is another one of those issues where, from just a community health and safety point of view, that, I would be very upset with all of us, and we would all own this, if something happened this weekend, or somebody got hurt, or property was destroyed, because we didn't do anything. And that would be on us. We couldn't look at anybody else to be responsible, because right now, we said, you can't do this. And on the 4th, people are going to be allowed to do that. And, we're saying, okay, you can have it intact, you can possess it, you can go buy it, store it at your house, but don't come in town and set it off. To me, that's as reasonable as we can get, and still be safe, and still try to keep our community members safe. So I just worry about what people are going to do, because not everybody is responsible, and not everybody is respectful. Last year was a perfect example. When Chief, you said how crazy it was because we were coming out of the pandemic, but we couldn't walk down.
Commercial grade fireworks on Water Street.
We couldn't walk down to the fireworks. We had to walk around Curry's because people were setting them off back there. And I didn't want my kids hurt. And now we're going to say that that's legal. I'm not okay with that. I don't want somebody's kid to get hurt because they're just walking down the street and somebody does that, and we have no recourse. They have no recourse to enforce that. There's nothing that can be done, and that's on us. anyways, that's where I'm at. That's,
Well said.
Even though I think that we should be able to possess them, I would agree with your stance that in the short time frame we could slow down to the last time, even though that's not what I feel should be going forward. If we wanted to bring it for this weekend, so it's not free for all of. But to your point, you have to get that information out to the community too.
well, the information hasn't changed. So the information is, it's still the same, right?
And there are two cities that just put it out today, that they are not allowing fireworks. Because I just saw it today, Springfield, New Hampshire.
No,
They just
On
put theirs
TV,
out
that's on
today.
TV today.
If we guarantee that we review the ordinance at the next meeting, I mean, the next workshop, and we're gonna hammer these differences out then, and then we make those changes through amendments, how would you feel about it?
I think the safety thing is the right thing. My hang up is the possession piece.
Okay. But if we,
That's something that could be adjusted later. I hear what you're saying.
what I'm saying is, I don't care if it's midnight in July's workshop, but we're gonna hammer this out. And we're not gonna leave until this is done to get that amendment for August and get that in. If we pass this tonight with a simple majority.
That still doesn't give you the point for this passage.
Correct. Correct, but it's gonna give us something, and I would feel a lot better. We still own this because we've had this in our possession for 4 months, 3 months, so that's on us, but, how would you, I mean, I'm saying we guarantee that in the workshop, we're getting it knocked out. We will come to a resolution and adjust and have those amendments made. Are you guys comfortable with that?
All you can do is untable it and call for roll call.
Is there a motion to untable?
I'll make a motion on the table.
Casey just approved.
Somebody needs to make a motion to pass it as originally read, correct?
Yes.
That doesn't make a point.
Right, it doesn't.
It does not. It does not, but it's something on the books that we're going to adjust.
So you just need me to read the title again? Is that what we're doing? Because I read it the last time. It's an ordinance amending section 91.11, possession, sale, and use of fireworks in the West Milton Code of Ordinances for the purpose of addressing the provisions of amended substitute House Bill 172 concerning the right of municipalities to retain the regulations and prohibitions of the discharge, ignition, and exploding of fireworks that existed prior to the enactment of amended substitute House Bill 172.
All right, thanks, Lynn. Is there a motion for the ordinance?
I'll make a motion to adopt or accept CM-22-19.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Norman?
If we don't address this, I'm out in the long
Well,
haul. So,
I just said.
yes.
Mr. Hurst?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
No.
Ms. Metz?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. Mr. Sheridan is well aware that this is going to be probably our only agenda item.
First on the workshop agenda.
And I told him to keep it on the agenda.
That'll be tough. Should I proceed?
Yes.
Next on our agenda, item 11, it brought to my attention that we still have in force a declaration of a state of emergency that was adopted in March of 2020, a copy of which is in your packet. And a new order drafted to end that state of emergency. Questions?
What changes with the ending of the state of emergency?
That's primarily on the last page, items 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm glad to read if you like, Counselor.
No, I got it, thank you.
Okay. No, absolutely.
I had brought this up to Jeff because I kind of felt like we were past most of this at this point, and it was no longer, Jeff didn't even know. I don't think we even knew
No,
about
I
it.
wasn't aware of it,
So
sorry.
I don't know how much we were even using
We're not.
the items here. So I figured at this point we should probably suspend this so that we can go back to normal and no neutrals or anything like that.
Any questions?
Discussion.
I actually need something. The declaration, is that what you're talking about?
I'm sorry.
Or are you talking about
I thought
something
it was a
else?
resolution. My apologies. My mind some of those things. This is a declaration rescinding Executive Order CM-01, 2020, and ending the declared state of emergency for the Village of West Milton, Ohio. Executive Order CM-01, 2022. Whereas the state of emergency declared by Mike DeWine, Governor of the State of Ohio, under 2020-01D, as it relates to COVID-19, was rescinded by Executive Order 2021-08D. And whereas the Village of West Milton also believes that based upon the current circumstances surrounding the response to COVID-19, the state of emergency declared by the village under CM-01-20 is no longer required. I now therefore, Anthony Miller, Mayor of the Village of West Milton, Ohio, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Ohio Constitution and the Charter and codified ordinances of the Village of West Milton, do hereby order and direct that Executive Order CM-01-2020, signed on March 25th, 2020, is rescinded, and the state of emergency as declared for the Village of West Milton is ended.
That would be straight, I read it.
You, Anthony.
As an executive order, a vote's not required, is that correct? Okay. Just wanted that in the minutes. Moving forward, item 12 is the second reading of rezoning. To refresh your memory, the first step in the development process of the proposed development on the north side of 571 was to receive a recommendation by the planning board, as our code spells out, when a property is annexed into the village, it comes in as A1, which is the least restrictive zoning classification, agriculture. And the request to rezone it as a PD, planned development. The planning board unanimously recommended that to the council. First reading was at the last council meeting, and this is the second reading of the first step of rezoning. And remind you, this is not project specific. I would suggest that the answer your decision on passing the second reading is primarily whether or not you wish to see the property developed. If you wish to see it developed, you want to vote in favor of having the PD zone classification. Then the next step is to go back to the planning board for projects and facilities. Does that make sense? Any questions?
An ordinance to amend official zoning map of West Milton as adopted by chapter 150.006 of the West Milton Code of Ordinances.
Any questions, comments? Any motions?
Make a motion, we accept ordinance CM-22-27 as read. As written.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Dorman?
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Ms. Metz?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Do we have any old business? Under new business,
Jack, I've got it. I met with veteran today, on the phone in Fun Homes, and they won't install any new gas lines or electric until we actually have the record plat signed for phase 2. So we mentioned
we've got the Mylars, I know I've got your signature, I'll bring the Mylars in after the meeting and get the signatures, and then we'll get planning board tomorrow night.
okay, so if I can pick it up right here or something?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Under new business, the village entered into an agreement actually today for a new aggregation supplier. The new rate is 0.756 per 100 cubic feet. Now, to put that in context, the prior agreement under volunteer was 0.429 per 100 cubic feet. But the market has changed dramatically. In April of 2022, the going rate was 0.68. By May, it jumped to 0.88. And in June, it was 1.06 CCF. Another piece to know, so this is much less than what we were paying without the aggregation, but it is higher than the previous cost. Another piece, the last one was for 3 years, this is only for 2 years. So we were able to lock in 2 years at 0.756. Questions? That's all I have.
Oh, you look like you were going to say something.
I was, but I probably shouldn't. So 2 years takes us to which presidential election? So it's back on the table relevantly when rates could
I
change.
expect they'll start renegotiating in about 18 months
Okay.
to get a new contract. But it was substantially below market at this point, so it's much better than what we have.
I do simple math, and that simple math makes
Good sense.
sense to me.
Our planning team that we're working with, Colago, has asked that everyone do a survey every day and that's posted on the water bill. So westmiltonplan.com. And also that they will be in town on the 4th of July after they set up all day basically at Chapel or at the bottom of the hill. Getting people to take the survey, just getting the community feedback. Everybody's allowed to do this, but you're still not allowed to play them off unless you're licensed to permit holders, which are already the exceptions.
So as an example, I as a citizen go to said authorized state seller of fun things and procure my stuff to go out to grandma's farm out in the country where it's safe and wet and not going to light anything on fire and no rooftops around. I get pulled over in town.
You're fine.
I'm fine. No violation.
or anybody else traveling through town,
Right.
just at grandma's house.
I'm a grandma.
Doesn't it allow the weekend after the July 4th too? Yes. So you actually,
You would pick that up.
you would pick that up, but I don't know, that's how you start doing with this stuff.
I don't have a lot of stomach for that. We're 2 people down, and of the 5, 3 were against the possession piece.
I would,
So,
I would rather us, and I understand where you're coming from, I'd rather us table this at this point, only because we can really nail down and say, maybe we want to look at 2 days before and after a holiday. I like that idea. I thought that was, and instead of trying to fit all these little pieces in right now, last minute, if we can't do the emergency.
to me, the emergency part was doing that tonight was about being able to have safety on the 4th. And if we're bypassing that, then I'd just rather put more effort into thoughtful discussion and getting it right.
You can always amend.
Well, that's true too. You know, I feel kind of bad, like Chris said, that we let it come down to the 5 days before the 4th or whatever it is, however many days, to be calling an emergency meeting for something that we've known about for a little longer than.
That's on us though.
Yeah, no, I own it. I mean, we've talked, we've hawed, we've discussed among ourselves, we've discussed it publicly here. We haven't, sorry. That's okay.
I just say we might be 2 people down, but I mean, everyone knew that it was tonight and things were going to happen tonight.
Chief, I think you have.
I just add one thing to it. I think we're focused on the 4th, but there's really 10 holidays in this piece of legislation that this allows fireworks. This isn't just the 4th of July that we're talking.
So getting it right for all of them is, well, I get your point. We're not trying to get it right until before next 4th of July. There's holidays between now and then.
Right.
Which was kind of the reason I wanted to, by tabling it, having to get back to it versus letting it die.
As reasonable as we can get, and still be safe, and still try to keep our community members safe. So I just worry about what people are going to do, because not everybody is responsible. And not everybody is respectful. Last year was a perfect example when you said how crazy it was because we were going out of the pandemic. But, we couldn't walk
Firing
down.
commercial grade fireworks off Water
We
Street.
couldn't walk down to the fireworks. We had to walk around the curries because people were setting them off back there. And I didn't want my kids to. And now we're going to say that that's legal. I'm not okay with that. I don't want somebody's kid to get hurt because they're just walking down the street and somebody does that, and we have no recourse. They have no recourse to enforce that. There's nothing that can be done. And that's on us. And that's where I'm at.
Well said.
Even though I think that we should be able to possess them, I agree with your stance that in the short time frame, it's being spoken on, a lot of times, it's not But to your point, you have to get the information out to the community too.
Well, the information hasn't changed. So the information is, it's still the same, right?
And there's two cities that just put it out today, that they're not allowing fireworks. The resident saw it today, Springfield and Dickerson.
Yeah,
They just put theirs out today.
If we guarantee that we review the ordinance at the next meeting, I mean, the next workshop, and we're gonna hammer these differences out then, and then we make those changes through amendments, how would you feel about that?
I think the safety thing is the right thing. My hang up is the possession piece.
Okay. But if we...
That's something that could be adjusted later. I hear what you're saying.
What I'm saying is, I don't care if it's midnight, it does not. It does not, but it's something on the books that we're going to adjust.
You just need me to read the title again. Because I read it last night. An ordinance amending section 91.11, possession, sale, and use of fireworks in the West